Okay, welcome everyone. Guests are coming into the virtual room. Happy Peer Review Week. Welcome to today's event. We're really excited for this one. We'll introduce our expert panelists here in just a moment. In the meantime, let's welcome our guests into the room. Feel free to say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're joining us from today. We love to meet researchers from all around the world. Let us know where you are. Let us know what kind of research you're doing. If you're interested in sharing that, we'd love to hear from you.
Great to be
Okay,
here.
while the guests are filing in. Oh, sorry, Gareth, please go
Oh,
ahead.
I was just going to say, great to be here, Scott. Do let us know where you're from, everybody. Put where you're from in the chat as well. That will be brilliant.
Please do. Let us know where you're joining us from, what kind of research you're doing. As you can see, today's event is Superpowers You Can Learn from Peer Review. And this is, I think, a tremendously interesting event. Many people wonder, what are the benefits of doing peer review? What's in it for me? Well, of course, there is the joy of contributing to the body of literature, the scientific literature, but also there are other multiple benefits that we can gain from doing peer review and being peer reviewers ourselves, and our expert panelists will share this with us tonight. First, let me introduce our team. Dr. Gareth Dyke and Catherine Anderson are joining us today. Catherine, hello, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Nice to be here today.
Thanks for joining us from Reviewer Credits. Also from Reviewer Credits, Dr. Gareth Dyke. Gareth, how are things with you today?
Brilliant. Yeah, not too bad. It's the middle of peer review week, so we're all a bit kind of getting towards the kind of top of the wave and then off towards the end of the week. But yeah, it's brilliant to be here. Great to see Catherine here as well. Everything's going well, Catherine. You're doing good. Ready to go?
Perfect, thank you. Yep, looking forward to next 45, 60 minutes or so. Going to be good.
Great. And we've got guests joining us from all around the world. We've got Ethiopia, we've got South Africa, Malaysia, Indonesia, Turkey, Brazil, South Africa, Kazakhstan, people from absolutely everywhere. Thank you all for making time to join us today. It's so far been a great peer review week, hasn't it? I've seen a lot of activity, a lot of big events, great attendance, great participation. Have you had other events so far this week, Gareth and Catherine? And if so, how have the audiences been there?
So far, so good. Done a number of things. It's been very good. Great to see so many researchers getting engaged with what we're doing. But before we go any further, there is an event tomorrow that Catherine will say a few words about now for editors. Catherine.
Yeah, so we have another webinar tomorrow, as Gareth said. So it's not tomorrow aimed at researchers and reviewers, but at journal editors and publishers. And it's all about finding not just reviewers, but finding fantastic reviewers and where to find them and how to keep them. And that is at, if I think I'm correct in saying, but I will check in a minute and put it in the chat, at 3 o'clock tomorrow, Central European time, so an hour later from this one today, but taking place tomorrow. So we'll also share the registration link here in the chat. If there are any editors, publishers attending who'd like to join, we'd love to see you tomorrow.
Fantastic. We'll put a link into the chat later so you can join that event tomorrow. And as for tonight's event, this is an interesting one. So we're going to go over through some of the superpowers that we call them that you can gain from becoming a peer reviewer. So Gareth and Catherine are going to introduce us to some of these skills. And these are transferable skills, aren't they, Gareth? These are skills that not only apply to the process of peer review and engaging in peer review with authors and editors, but also things that will carry over to other areas of your professional life as a researcher. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. So we spend a lot of time, Catherine and I, talking to researchers and talking to editors at different journals around the world, people who want to get involved in the peer review process on the one hand, as well as editors and journal managers who want to find and engage and work with peer reviewers on the other hand. And so what we've learned over the years is that really the process of peer review involves a number of key transferable skills that we're going to talk about in this event today. Catherine, I know that you also talk to editors all the time. Which of these do you think is really the most important in your kind of day-to-day life outside of research and peer review?
Heavens, you've really put me on the spot here now. Oh, heavens, they're all so important. In terms of talking with the editors, I would say probably the first one is marginally more important, but really they're all so, yeah, so important.
And you can learn these skills from the peer review process. And this is really the message that we want to get across with this event today. A lot of researchers think peer review is just something that you have to do for journals as a researcher. And don't forget that many researchers don't end up staying in academia. Like Scott, like myself, end up working in other walks of life. So the skills that you can learn doing peer review are transferable. And that's what we're going to talk about in our event today, right, Scott?
Absolutely. And this is a great opportunity, by the way, for our guests joining us today. You've got two luminaries, two experts here, Catherine and Gareth. They're here to answer your questions at the end of the event today. So if you do have questions for them, feel free to type them into the Q&A box there. Or if you're not able to access that, you can also type them into the chat or reach out to me. And we'll post your questions to Catherine and Gareth at the end of the event today. So if you have questions about becoming a peer reviewer, the benefits of being a peer review, or the challenges that we'll also talk about today, Gareth and Catherine are here to answer your questions. And I have someone in my circle here who's recently received a peer review offer and is considering it. So I'm going to refer her to watch this event later. She's not able to join this time of day. So I think the information here today is of great use to anyone who's received an invitation to do peer review, is concerned about it, isn't sure of the benefits or what sorts of considerations they should think about. So I think this is a fantastic event for researchers. So I'll turn it over to you. I'll be engaging in the chat and I'll be popping up from time to time just to launch a few polls and find out more about our audience and how much you know about the superpowers you gain from peer review. So over to you, Catherine and Gareth.
Brilliant, brilliant stuff. I'll go first and say a few things about these superpowers, and then Catherine will come in after that and talk a little bit about the #1 platform that you can sign up on as a researcher if you would like to get something back for the work that you do as a reviewer. So we'll talk about that platform in a moment. No prizes for guessing the name of that particular platform. Hi, Emra. It's nice to see you also joining us in the event today. Our engineering and technology lead from Reviewer Credits is here. So if anyone has any specific questions about the platform itself, we can get him involved a little bit later in the event. But having said all of that, we're going to get started. Thank you, everybody, for letting us know a little bit of information about yourselves. It's really great to see so many people from so many different countries joining us in the webinar today. We're going to talk quickly about 3 key superpowers that you can gain as a researcher performing peer review: constructive communication, critical thinking, and thirdly, time management. And as Catherine mentioned a moment ago, talking to other people, business meetings, sales meetings, relationships, communication is important, but you also need these other skills as well as a researcher. And really, we want to get started by just having a quick think about the peer review process. And we'll do a little poll in a minute to get everybody engaged and make sure that you're still awake as we go into this event. But the peer review process itself has different forms and different perceptions. People think differently about the peer review process depending on their perspective, but it should be positive. It really should be positive. And do let us know in the chat if you've had a bad or negative peer review experience, because part of what we try to do at SciTrain and at Reviewer Credits is to help researchers to get something out of the peer review process and to turn it into something that's really positive. This is supposed to improve your paper, advance the field, and you can get involved in the peer review process through Reviewer Credits. So do have a look at that and maybe think about signing up as a peer reviewer on the Reviewer Credits platform, because then you'll be able to get some rewards and get some value back from all of the work that you do as a researcher, perhaps free for journals and publishers. And Catherine will be back to talk about that in a moment. But let's talk first of all about the first of those fantastic superpowers that you can gain as a researcher from performing peer review, and it's constructive communication. Very, very, very important. Perhaps English is not your native language. Perhaps you need us to help you to get better at communicating, writing, and speaking in the process. And you can gain this, as we mentioned, from peer review as you develop a positive and reasoned attitude to the research of others. You get to understand journal production processes as you perform peer review. As you get more experienced, performing peer review for journals. You get to understand the editorial process. And of course, we hope that you'll gain both interpretation and critical reading skills as a researcher engaging with peer review. In a minute, we'll talk a little bit about some of the training courses that we do have at Reviewer Credits at SciTrain to help you with peer review. But here are some benefits of doing it. So if you're thinking, I've just received a review invitation from a journal and I'm not sure whether I want to accept that peer review invitation, well, here are some quick benefits that you will gain from undertaking peer review, the benefits of being a peer reviewer. And it also comes with quite a heavy responsibility. This is peer review week. We're talking all week about peer review and why it's such a great process, but you are going to be asked by a journal or a book publisher, but by a publisher to conduct a fair and balanced assessment of the work of one of your colleagues, someone else in the field. And you're being asked fundamentally to assess the suitability of this paper for publication in a particular venue. So you've got three key responsibilities: to be responsible, to do a good job, to be thorough, and as we mentioned before, to be positive about the process. And do give us some insights. Do let us know if you've had a bad or negative peer review experience recently, and we will certainly be here to try and help you manage that and get the best possible positive outcome from the journal, because constructive positivity is a key transferable skill. How you can find ways as a reviewer to help authors improve, because far too often reviewers think, how can I find ways to reject this paper? And your colleagues and collaborators are going to appreciate your positive impact. If you do a positive peer review of a piece of work that your boss gives you, for example, if you're positive about it, that's going to stand you in good stead in the future in your career. Constructive positivity is really, really, really important. So Scott's going to be back. We're going to see if you're still awake, everybody. Let's have a look at the first poll in our event today. Scott.
Okay, thank you, Gareth. Let's reach out to our guests today and let's just do a quick check, a litmus test on your attitude or approach to peer review. If you've conducted peer review before as a reviewer, how would you describe your general attitude? Let's launch the poll here. And the options are, how would you describe your general attitude when reviewing others' work? A, mostly supportive and constructive. B, balanced, supportive but critical. C, critical and focused on weaknesses. Or D, not sure, or maybe you've not conducted peer review before as a reviewer. Let's see what our guests think.
I don't know. I used to be very critical and focused on weaknesses when I used to get asked to do peer review when I was a younger researcher. I definitely was in the mindset often of thinking like, how can I stop this paper that Scott's written from getting published? How can I find problems with it? How can I pick holes in it? How can I nitpick and maybe shoot it down and stop it from getting published? Terrible, right?
Oh, so that was you. You were that peer reviewer. Okay, well, that's why I didn't get into that journal. But actually, one of my colleagues here in Japan has gone through this exact process of trying to figure out, what is the right approach? How critical is too critical? How nice is too nice? It is a balance, isn't it?
It absolutely is. But you should be positive. Like the whole point of peer review actually is not to help authors improve their papers for publication. The whole point of peer review is to vet content for publication. So a byproduct of this process, which should be positive, is that your paper will hopefully be improved. But that's not the main goal of peer review. And many researchers, especially those performing peer review, do kind of get it into their mind that they've got to be like critical, think of all of the problems with the paper, reasons why it shouldn't get published, which is not such a great mindset to be in.
Okay, well, let's see which mindset our guests are mostly in. I'll end the poll here. And here are the answers. 27% of our guests said mostly supportive, 60% said balanced. Good for you. 7% said critical, and 7% are not sure or haven't reviewed before. Interesting mix, interesting balance. Thank you for your answers, everyone.
Definitely. Like the majority of our audience, thank you very much. You're a positive group of people, generally mostly supportive and constructive, balanced, supportive, maybe a bit critical as well, but at least you're not being super, super negative. I know I got loads of peer review comments back on stuff that I'd written that was just downright horrible, nasty, some of the comments that I got back.
Okay, thanks everyone for your answers.
Brilliant stuff. Let's move swiftly on because that was superpower one. Constructive communication. Very, very important, not just in research, but in your general working life. Superpower two, perhaps as important, perhaps more important. We'll get your feedback on that in a moment. It's critical thinking about research and especially about the research of other colleagues. Very, very important. So what we've got here is a quick checklist that you can use. You can take a screenshot of this. You can use it in your own research to critically evaluate a research paper or critically evaluate your next research paper as a researcher. How novel is your paper within known context? How good are your methods, the study design, the analysis, etc.? Have you maximized bias to minimize your study's validity? That's very important. What are the real world implications of the work that you're doing, its application, its influence, and for how long? And this is really one of the most important questions to ask about any piece of research. Editors will ask this question. You should ask this question about your own work and about the work that you get asked to peer review. Critical thinking. What are the real world implications of this study and for how long are those going to be important? Also, very, very important in many, many subject areas. Is your study ethically compliant? This is what peer reviewers will be checking for. This is what journal editorial teams will be checking for. If you haven't got a clinical trial that's been pre-registered, if you haven't completed journal ethics statements, you will not have the chance to get that paper published in a peer-reviewed journal. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Also, is your writing readable? Is it suitable for non-specialist reviewers? Is the journal choice appropriate for this work? When you do a peer review, this is one of the first questions you're going to get asked by the editor. Is this journal appropriate for this paper? Is the hypothesis appropriate? What do you think of the study? Are you thinking a thoughtful and balanced assessment? And you're being asked as a peer reviewer to comment on the science, not the writing. Comment on the content, not the writing, not the level of English. And this is really one of the main things that we try to help peer reviewers with, is that it's not your job to edit the paper. It's not your job to look at the language. If you see issues with the language, send the paper back to the journal editorial office and ask them to ask the author to get some help with the English. And of course, we're in the age of AI. There's really no need anymore to pay for any editing services. Sorry about that. All of those editing companies out there, you can use a range of AI tools to help you to do this. And indeed, if you're interested, Scott and I will be doing a webinar just next week on the use of AI tools in research and writing. So have a look at that. Do sign up for that if you'd like to learn more about AI writing tools. You're going to read a paper as a peer reviewer 3 different ways. As somebody else in the field, to understand the content and the focus of the work, as a competitor, in order to remain fair and balanced, which is quite hard to do. And then also read the paper in a 3rd way. Think as a colleague working in the same department and give the author, the researcher, the team suggestions to improve the quality of the work. So this is a good strategy to be critical but constructive when performing a peer review of somebody else's research paper. The 3 different mindsets to get into when reading and reviewing a paper for a journal. Somebody else in the field, as a competitor, and as a colleague working in the same department. So that's critical thinking. What was the first superpower? It was time management. That's superpower 3. The first superpower was constructive communication. The second critical thinking. Number 3, it's time management. This is definitely a superpower that I know Scott would say I need to really work on, and I'm trying my best to do that. But time management, really important, wouldn't you say, Scott, as a third critical superpower?
Well, clearly you've managed your time well because you're an incredibly well-published researcher, so you must be doing something right. But yes, it is one of the biggest challenges for us all, I think. And I think that's going to be coming up a bit later, is if you do receive a peer review invitation, that's something to consider carefully, is realistically, how much time do we have to really devote to a peer review? So yeah. Let's try a poll here and see what our audience thinks. So this question is about peer review challenges or peer review invitations, I guess would be another way to put it. So the question is, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to accepting peer review invitations? Is it A, lack of time, B, lack of confidence in your own expertise in conducting peer review, C, possible conflicts of interest, or D, you rarely receive invitations to do peer review or haven't yet, at least. So let's see what our guests think today.
If you rarely receive invitations to do peer review, but you'd like to get involved in peer review, we do have the perfect platform for you to sign up on as a researcher, and then you'll get sent matching review requests from journals. And Catherine will be here in just a few moments to talk about reviewer credits, but do have a look at reviewercredits.com as a platform to engage with journals and get access to both review requests and rewards. Scott?
Okay, we'll put those links in the chat just shortly so that you can click on them and sign up with reviewer credits. Let's look at our results for the poll today. I'm going to share the poll results now, and let's see. Lack of time is the #1 challenge faced by potential reviewers, as expected. I think we're all busy. 59% of our guests said lack of time is the #1 challenge. Next was lack of confidence and expertise. Of course, that's natural. 26% of us answered B. C, possible conflicts of interest, 3%. And so far, 13% of our guests haven't received invitations or haven't received enough invitations yet. Interesting. So lack of time is #1, Gareth. Does that surprise you at all?
It doesn't surprise me at all. Being a former academic with all of the different requirements of the job, administration, teaching, research, dealing with students, it is like definitely something that's far down the list, probably at the bottom of the list in terms of things that, you would need to find time to do. And part of the reason for that is, of course, that you don't get any recognition really as an academic for doing peer review, which is why we created reviewer credits, and we'll be going to talk about that in just a moment. But yes, 13% of our colleagues attending today have not received invitations or rarely receive invitations. That's great to hear, or we can fix that problem as well by helping you get access to review invitations. So let's quickly talk about Superpower 3 in just a few moments. It's all about time management. One of the most important questions to ask yourself when you do receive a peer review request from a journal is, do I have the time right now? Do you really have the time? Because this is an opportunity to get yourself in front of a journal editor or editorial team at a journal in which you, in the future, would like to be publishing your own research. The reason that you've been asked to perform peer review is because you're an active researcher in that particular research field. So this journal is a journal for you to target with your research in the future. So the worst thing that you can do is not take enough time on the peer review, send back something really short, not all that valuable to the editors and the authors. That's going to make you look bad to the editor, as well as taking too much time. So the first question you really should ask yourself at the outset is, do you have the time to do a good job? Because if you don't, if you feel that you don't, do yourself and the editor a favor and reject the review request. Maybe make some suggestions for alternative colleagues who might be interested in doing it. But doing peer review can boost your career significantly in a number of really important ways, not least the transferable skills that we're talking about today, but also in terms of your potentially developing positive relationship with a journal editor at a journal where you would potentially like to send your own research in the future. So you get a review request invitation through the Reviewer Credits platform, we hope. And if you haven't signed up yet and you're listening to this and you don't know about Reviewer Credits, Catherine will be here in a moment to tell you more. Do you have any conflicts of interest? Do you know the authors? Have you worked with them? This could be a blocker on doing a peer review at this time. Ask the editor if you have any questions. Secondly, is this your field? Do you have the expertise? Are you really competent to perform a peer review on this particular topic? Again, if you're not, or it will take too much work for you to get up to speed in this particular area, best thing to do is turn down the review request. Thirdly, and it's all about time management, this is superpower number 3, time management. Do you have the time? Really, do you have the time? Because that's really something worth thinking about in detail, which brings us on to the second part of our event today. And I'm delighted to hand over the baton to Catherine. Catherine, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. And I'm really fascinated by the chat here, looking at the questions coming in, also seeing our audience from literally all over the world. It's wonderful to see how many people are here and yeah, to see your interest. So we've learned now from Gareth the 3 main skills and a lot of information about peer review and how to be a good peer reviewer. I just want to finish this up before we come to the chat and the questions, just with a little bit of information about reviewer credits, how you as reviewers can get involved, and also some of our current training options. So this is just a little overview of everything we do. As you heard at the beginning, we don't just only work with reviewers, with you, but also with journals and publishers. So we have different options available. But for you as reviewers, the 2 main products and services we offer here are the reviewer training I will come on to in a minute. And at the bottom, you can see here reviewer certification. And there was a question just now in the chat about how you can add peer review to your CV, to your academic record. And we have a great free function available to all registered reviewers on reviewer credits. If you sign up, make a profile as a reviewer, then at any time, provided you have review data uploaded, you can download and share your certificate and really show across all journals, all publishers, different media types as well, all of the valuable peer review work that you've been doing, and can make it part of your academic record and also get more recognition for it. So we've put I think several times, the website and the link into the chat. Feel free to register if you're not already on reviewer credits and start to enjoy the benefits straight away. Next slide, please. Scott, over to you, first of all, for our next poll.
Okay, let's try another poll. This is our 3rd and final poll for today. I promise no more polls after this. This is an easy one. Peer review training. Have you ever taken training in how to do peer review? Let's see what our audience has experienced. The answers coming in hot. Great. Okay, looks like a majority of our guests today have not undergone any peer review training. Let's end the poll and share the results here. So we've got 56% have not had peer review training and 44% have. Well, congratulations to those of you who have already received peer review training. Catherine, it is difficult to find great training out there for peer review, or maybe it's easier than we think.
We'll see. Yeah, so the 56% we have here of the participants today have not received any training. So we did a poll or a survey a few years ago now, but the results will still be very similar. And we found about 40% of all reviewers have never received any formal training. So we had 56, which is more, but we're obviously a much smaller group. But if you imagine all of the peer review work going on all over the world, every day of the year. We're talking of thousands and thousands and thousands of reviews. And of those reviewers, 40% have never received any sort of training. And certainly we think that's a huge amount and needs to be addressed. So what it means is that all of this peer review work is going on by people who don't necessarily really know what they're doing. You know, you're being asked to peer review, you're expected to submit a timely, quality peer review without necessarily knowing the expectations and without having, for example, the wonderful information that Gareth has just given you. So training on the job. So that is not only frustrating, I'm sure, for yourselves, and we've seen how little time you all have. That creates even more time pressures, and also leads for the journal editors to huge variation in the quality and also the speed of the reviews coming in. Also, an offer to any, we do have any journal editors attending today, then have a think yourself. Maybe you would like to invest a bit more in training your own reviewers. We could also think about some publisher or journal specific training, maybe inform your reviewers about new industry trends around peer review, developments, AI tools, etc., etc. A lot of opportunities there for you. Next slide, please. So for you now, going back to you as reviewers, we have here a number of options for you to address the fact that many of you have not had any sort of any training. So whether it's for you as an author or for you as a peer review, you can see here what's already available. And those are the options with a blue button here, or currently in development, the ones with red and white. So you can see we have here several options developed together with SciTrain, whether it's an e-course, a webinar, or a workshop. And in the next slide, we'll have a look in a bit more detail, thank you, at some of the current training offerings. So here, for example, on ethics and research integrity, on journal submission and peer review. But also here in the middle is the peer review power training course. And this I would definitely recommend to the 26% we saw here of you who say that you don't necessarily accept a peer review request because you feel of lack of confidence in your own expertise. Well, take the course and then I'm sure you'll have full confidence in your own expertise, certainly as a peer reviewer. This course is online, it's on demand, so you can take it at any time, go off, have a cup of coffee, go out for the evening, come back next day, carry on where you left off. It's very interactive, it's full of videos here presented by Gareth, and lots of quizzes, and really fun to take. I took it myself. I'm not a reviewer, but I wanted to see what the course was like and had a lot of fun doing it and also learned a lot. And at the end, there's a quiz that you have to take. If you reach 80% correct, then you've passed. And again, going back to the topic of peer review on your academic record, you also get a certificate at the end. So next slide, please. So as you could see, the Power Up course on demand, we've had a lot of interest. We've had almost 500 reviewers already who have registered and have taken the course, or are 60% currently engaged. As we see, not everyone finishes it to the end, but straight away comes back and continues. And about 130 people have already not just finished it, but completed successfully, taken the little quiz at the end, got at least 80% correct, so got their certificate. And you can see here a wonderful testimonial from a very satisfied student in Egypt who took the course, and I think her words really sum up well how valuable this can be for any peer reviewers, especially those early on in their career. Next slide, please. So yeah, for all of you here today, we have a very, very special offer, only valid till the end of September. So you've just got a couple more weeks to take advantage of it. we're offering you the chance to take the course and to save 50%. It normally costs €100, so you can get it for €50 until the end of September. You can see the URL here, and we can also put it into the chat, or I can see my colleagues have been already putting it in. If you use the code RCSummer50 when you come to the checkout, then you can get your 50% off. You can also just go and have a look at the course first of all. There are 5 modules. The first one is completely free, so you can have a look first of all and start the course without having to commit. And then if you think this is great, I want to continue, then you have to purchase it, but use the code at the checkout and you'll get your 50% off. And as you can see here, an example of the certificate. This is the certificate that you will get at the end when you successfully pass the course, that you can share with your colleagues and put onto your academic CV. And one more slide we have. No, we don't. That's the last one. Thank you, first of all, from myself, also on behalf of my colleagues. And I see we've got some time left, so over to you, Scott, to moderate us through some questions.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. Thanks for sharing all the information about reviewer credits. And I put some links in the chat. So if you're interested in the peer review Power Up course, I put a link through there in the chat. So feel free to click through and explore the first lesson. It's completely free to try the first lesson. You don't even have to log in. You can just do a trial right there. So I'll put a link to that in the chat as well. And yes, we do have some questions from our guests today. Gareth and Catherine, do we have time for a few questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. I want to loop back to a question that came up in the chat a bit earlier. One of our guests had said that they had received an offer to do a peer review from a journal, but they turned that particular offer down for reasons, and they were concerned, would that hurt their standing with that journal, and can they expect to perhaps be offered again to do peer review for that journal? Is there any negative side to turning down a peer review offer by a journal?
Gareth, you answer that when you're also a journal editor.
I don't think so. I mean, so long as you are constructive in the way that you turn down the offer and you tell the editor why you're not taking it. If you're honest and you say, I don't have time, that's fine. If you're honest and you say it's not really my research area, that's also completely fine. However, if you say, leave me alone, and how dare you write me emails asking me to do peer review, then that could have a damaging effect on your relationship with the editor. Catherine, you talk to editors a lot, right? And how would they normally engage with reviewers? Would they normally be offended if somebody turns down a review request?
I'm pretty sure certainly not. I'm sure from an editor's point of view, they would rather a reviewer turn down a request, as you say, Gareth, for good reason, than say or feel pressured into reviewing that maybe it's not their actual field of expertise. Maybe they really don't have the time. Coming back to what we saw at the beginning of the presentation, so then what will come out of it is probably not the best review. And I would say a journal editor would prefer then to get a rejection, but then go to someone else, ask them, and then probably at the end of the day, all will be happier.
Okay, great question, and thanks for your answers, Gareth and Catherine. A related question here. Let me just go back to our guest who asked, let me just find the question again. Is it possible to be a peer reviewer for more than one journal? I assume that means at a time. Well, you'd have to have enough time to do that, obviously. And related question from the same guest, is it possible to submit an abstract to the same journal for which we are doing peer review? So 2 related questions. So first, is it possible to do peer reviews concurrently from more than one journal? And the other question is it possible, or maybe I guess ethical is the question, to submit an abstract to the same journal for which we are currently doing peer review? 2 interesting questions. Thank you for your questions.
Those are easy questions to answer. Yeah, yes and yes is the answer to those questions. Yes, you can. Of course, you can submit your own work to a journal that you're working on a paper for as a reviewer, absolutely. So long as the paper that you submit is not plagiarized or copied or taking information without citation from the work that you've been asked to peer review, because that would be very naughty, and we do see that sometimes. You know, as a reviewer, you're getting advance notice of a piece of research that will soon be hopefully published. And what you shouldn't do, one of your ethical responsibilities as a reviewer, is not to like use that information, not yet, not until it gets published and you can cite it, or it gets pre-printed or something like that and you can cite it. So yeah, absolutely. The answer to both those questions is yes.
Great question, and thanks for your insights, Gareth. And that reminds me, we were going to post a shameless plug for our event next week for ethical AI writing. I'll put a link to that into the chat here for those who might be interested. Speaking of ethical submissions, so there's a link to next week's event with De Gruyter Brill featuring Gareth and myself. These are some more great questions in the Q&A here. Let me just pull these up here. One of our guests asks, let's see. So here's a very practical question. Will we be providing a certificate of attendance? Yes, we will. We will send you a certificate and a link to the full video recording about 24 hours after this event ends. So check your email inbox. We'll send you, again, certificate and a link to the full recording. You can review any parts that you might have missed from Catherine and Garrett's talk today. So great question. I'll look for your video and certificate in about 1 day in your email inbox. Let's see, some more questions that came up in the chat. Let me just scroll up here. Maybe this is more of a comment than a question, but yes, our guest Erica comments that peer review time is volunteer time, and that this needs to be regulated properly and fairly for researchers, while journals are, obviously there's money changing hands, but that's not going into the hands of the reviewers. So obviously reviewer credits is trying to fill this gap. There is a perceived gap between, the interactions and the finances that happen, but peer reviewers are not paid. So I think it's interesting that Reviewer Credits has come up with, I think, a very viable solution to this, providing an incentive system for peer reviewers to conduct peer review, where in the past it's been perceived that there isn't any kind of incentive for reviewers in addition to the skills that we talked about today. So if you're interested in finding out more about the incentives that are offered by Reviewer Credits, Catherine, Gareth, how would you encourage our guests today to sign up and start off with Reviewer Credits?
Yeah, so we've put the link into the chat a few times, but maybe Gareth, you can do it one more time. So we have a link. You can go straight through to register as a reviewer on Reviewer Credits. It's completely free, and you get a response pretty much straight away. And then you can create your own profile. And this is really important, that it's not just your name, where you're based, but in your profile, you stipulate your current field of research, and also, for example, how many times you would like to be contacted by a Reviewer Credits with a review request. So obviously we don't want to keep sending you requests, but going back to the issue of time management, so you can say, for example, I'd like to be contacted, let's say 4 times per month with a review request. If you're maybe going on vacation, you've got a deadline coming up, you can say, I'm currently not available to peer review. You won't receive any requests during that time from Reviewer Credits, any journals associated with Reviewer Credits at least. When you come back, you've got time again, then you can set your profile to available. So yeah, sign up. You can start using, you can first of all upload your review data. That's obviously important. Any reviews that you've done in the last few years, and then you can download your reviewer certificate. And these are really popular with reviewers all around the world. As I said before, just to really put this onto the academic record, and you can use it on your CV. So yeah, Gareth has put it into the chat. And that's the reviewer sign up. If you happen to be an editor of the journal, you'll see a tab there. You can also register as a journal.
Catherine, we have a comment from another colleague about they've signed up as a reviewer, but they've not received any peer review requests yet from journals. Is there anything that we can recommend on that?
I would first of all make sure that your profile is completely up to date and that you've added your primary research topic, for example. Make sure that your button is available for peer review. I don't know what the field of research is. It may be very, very specialist. We have a lot of journals who work with us. If your field of topic of research hasn't actually shown up in any of the search requests by a journal as yet, that could also be a reason.
It's visual arts in this case, so that probably is the reason.
Yeah, I have to say that's not our strongest point in terms of research fields. I'm not sure if we do have any journals associated. If you would like to send us an email after this, maybe with your name, we can check your profile, and if you're interested, if I can have a look, see if we've got any journals in that field who work with us, and maybe we can just match you offline. Yes, info@reviewercrates.com. Thank you, Gareth.
Yes, we'll reach out to you. Dr. Denny, you had some questions I can see here in the Q&A about redeeming credits, about using Stripe in your global location. So we'll reach out to you, Dr. Denny. Catherine or Gareth will reach out to you, and so we can get some answers for some of your questions about redeeming credits and so on. And another related question was, are these courses free? The peer reviewer power up course is a paid course. That's a self-study on demand course, as Catherine explained, and there's a 50% discount here. I put the code into the chat. The other courses, the SciTrain courses, they are free for attendees. They're often sponsored by publishers and societies. So if you see us advertise one of our SciTrain events, in most cases, it's completely free for attendees. It's sponsored by the journals. So but those are live events, whereas the peer reviewer power up course, as Catherine said, the strength of that is you can take it anytime, anywhere on demand. You can pace it yourself. And when you finish it, you get a certificate at the end. So those links are all in the chat. So I hope that answers your question, Dr. Denny, about free versus paid courses. Great question.
There's another course
Fantastic.
coming, right, Scott? There's another course on the way.
Indeed, we do have a new course that we are just finishing up now. I'm really excited about this one, and we're curious to see if you might be interested in taking this course. I'm going to put a link into the chat for a VIP waiting list for this new course. I'll stick it in the chat here. Feel free to sign up there, and we'll just ask for some very basic information, your email, and a couple of brief points about you and the kind of research you do, and then we'll put you on our waiting list. And as soon as the course comes out, we'll send you an invitation so that you can join that brand new peer reviewer course. It's called Peer Review for Authors and Reviewers, as Catherine is kindly showing here on the slide, how to avoid dramas. So if you're interested in that course, it's aimed at not only reviewers, but also editors and authors. So basically everyone. How can we get these three groups of important people to communicate smoothly and more positively? If you're interested in that kind of a course aimed at reviewers, editors, and authors, click on the link, sign up, and we'll let you know as soon as it's released.
Who doesn't want to avoid dramas? I mean, you should all sign up, right?
Indeed, indeed. Well, it's so unnecessary, isn't it? Peer review is already challenging enough rather than introducing artificial drama. One of our guests today, in fact, mentioned just that sometimes the comments are so overwhelmingly negative from reviewers that it verges on unprofessional. And I think you mentioned the same thing earlier, Gareth, and I've seen that with my clients and authors here in Japan. So there's a lot of unnecessary drama. And I think part of that is, as you said earlier, both of you said earlier, constructive communication is so important.
And yeah, I mean, there's a whole load of social media channels you can follow. One is called "How Do We Get Rid of Reviewer 2?" This is what people often experience as a part of peer review. Strong levels of negativity, often verging on the downright nasty about their research. And that's really something that we're trying to change, or at least provide training to reviewers and also to editors and journal managers to deal with this kind of thing and manage negativity, because really it shouldn't get back to the authors if reviewers are being so overly negative about a piece of research, and it can have a huge impact not just on your state of mind, but also on your career potentially if you get really nasty comments back in peer review. We have a question about timings, Scott. Do you see that?
I missed that one, sorry. Was that in the chat or in the Q&A?
In the chat. So when can we send a message for an editor? Like at what point should we communicate with editors? And yeah, all the time. Feel free to reach out to editors all the time. Editors exist, they're there to help you as a researcher. So don't ever feel that you can't write to editors. It's really important that you do communicate back and forth with journal editors.
That's a great point, a great question. I think one thing I've learned from you, Gareth, from your expertise as a journal editor, is that editors do appreciate people reaching out to you. They would prefer that than someone, launching into something, a submission or a peer review. If they're unprepared or they're unsuitable, you would much rather them reach out to you first, just to inquire, right? Could I do a peer review for your journal? Or can I submit a paper of this kind to your journal? These kinds of inquiries are welcomed by editors, aren't they?
Absolutely. And I think Catherine is talking every day to editors at journals, journal managers, publishers, and they really want communication with reviewers, right, Catherine? They really want to get in touch with peer reviewers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just thinking now, the survey that I mentioned, the survey we did not just to reviewers, but also to journal editors. And 75% of journal editors reported to us that their biggest pain point is finding willing peer reviewers. So they're finding it difficult to find a reviewer in the first place, but once they've got them, they're really interested in the communication, in repeat reviewers, in building up a relationship. So yeah, again, it all goes back to constructive communication. I've also seen somewhere in the chat, I can't remember where it was, but someone asked about how to get more involved as a reviewer. Again, a shameless plug for reviewer credits now, but we have a fairly new function on our platform whereby reviewers can like a particular journal. So if you're starting out in your career, you're fairly new to peer review, there's a journal that maybe you'd really like to do some peer review for, you could write to the editor. I'm sure they'd be happy to receive an email from you, but you could also see if that journal is active on reviewer credits, and you can just like and follow it, just like on social media. So that way, that journal will also see the reviewers who are following them, who like them, and that maybe also be a way that you're coming more to the attention of the journal.
Okay, fantastic. And we've put links to all of those resources on the reviewer credits side. Those are all in the chat. If you missed anything tonight, remember we will be sending you a full recording. It has the transcript as well as the full chat. So if you're missing any of those links, just check your inbox tomorrow. We'll send you the recording, the transcript, and the full chat transcript as well. And yeah, it's been a fantastic event today. We've had some great participation from our guests. Gareth and Catherine, any final thoughts that you would like to leave with our guests today?
Gareth, over to you first.
Oh, I would say, if you're thinking about getting involved with peer review, do so. It's a fantastic opportunity to develop your career as a researcher, but let's do it in a constructive and positive and time managed way. And those are the secret superpowers that we talked about today. Where can you go to get access to great peer review requests that will enhance your career, Catherine?
Reviewercredits.com. Sorry, it's like
Great.
pause there. Yeah, and well, from me also, just thank you to everyone from all over the world. Thank you for your comments and your questions. Thanks to Gareth as ever for wonderful participation and information, and Scott for moderating all of this, and great polls, by the way.
And thanks to both of you for sharing your expertise. I always learn loads from joining these events with you, Gareth, and nice to have you on this event today, Catherine. I also learned a lot from you today. So thanks to everyone for joining us, and thanks to our experts for lending us all of your insights. And we hope to see you at the next event. Remember, tomorrow, there's an event tomorrow. I put the link in the chat there, so be sure to join that one. And that's for you editors out there. And for everyone else, have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. And thank you very much for joining this event today. And thanks again to you, Gareth and Catherine.
Thank you.